Welcome to another video, guys. Today we're going to be talking about a little bit of a beginner-friendly topic, which is what kind of stats you want on all of your items. I know this might sound a little bit trivial and not important for a lot of you nowadays, but there are still a lot of newer players out there that have no idea what they should be looking for on each of their items, especially on the bottom row, like boots, chest, and gloves. So in this video, I'm going to do my best to explain everything there is to know about this topic. So if you guys find the video helpful, a like and subscribe would be awesome. And don't forget you can check me out live on stream each Tuesday and Thursday for free account takeovers, where I do my best to help my viewers enjoy Raid even more. Don't forget you can download Raid through my premium download link if you want to start Raid the right way, with tons of extra amazing champions right out the get-go, and you're also gonna have 48 hours to use the promo code section to get yourself an extra legendary champion. Now, let's get into the video. Okay, so I'm gonna be using my War Maiden as a good example of what you should be looking for on your items, especially since I noticed a huge mistake I've actually done gearing her out back in the day when I also had no idea what I was doing. So the 9 item slots every champion has would be the top row, which is the weapon, the helmet, and the shield, the bottom row, which is the glove, the chest, and the boot, and the accessory row, which is the ring, the amulet, and the banner. And all of these items can have some very specific things you need to be looking for when you're trying to build out a champion. For instance, the most important item in the game is, hands down, bar none, the boots. I guess we could also talk about the gauntlets for nukers at least, but the boots for all intents and purposes is definitely super important for right about any champion in Raid. And why is the boot so important? This is because the boot is the only item that can have a main stat speed, and plenty of it. This is a 6-star item right now, so this gives me a grand total of 45 speed just for leveling it up to 16. And speed, as most of you already know, is the most important stat in the game, and a lot of you are about to find out. There is actually an easy way to know for you guys what stat an item could be rolling, but you could be using the filters section, from where you could select only boots, and now from here you could select primary stats. And here you're gonna see every single stat a boot could roll. And like I said, speed is by far the most important one. If a boot has flat HP, flat attack, flat defense, it is by far absolutely unusable for you, and 9 times out of 10 it should be sold. More advanced players could pretend they are gonna use ore on it, but boots are definitely not the best place for you to be using ore on, and it's definitely not something we should be talking about with newer players right now, so let's just skip that part. But another thing you could consider keeping on a boot would be HP percent, attack percent, defense percent. Even though those are a lot less useful, especially for newer players, they still could be absolutely amazing, especially for late game, where some of your champions, like let's say some ally attack nukers, won't really need all of that speed, but instead they're gonna be much happier with tons of extra HP attack or defense, so they can smack even harder. HP percent and defense percent might also be useful for some slow tank type champions like UDK for instance, but for a newer player, 9 times out of 10, the only thing you're gonna be looking for on a boot would be speed. Doesn't matter if it's common, uncommon, if it's a 5-star or more, a speed boot would be very important for any new player, so try to keep every single speed boot you manage to find. And some people even farm themselves 12-6 Brutal, or heck even 12-6 Nightmare a lot, just for the sole purpose to find themselves a few extra speed, and a lot of players actually do farm speed set boots from campaign on Nightmare, and they go over 6-6 of Nightmare Palace of Aravia, so they can find themselves a little bit of extra speed boots. And for a lot of players that would actually make a good amount of sense. Even as a common speed boot, it's still gonna be insane for a lot of your champions, especially for your supports and debuffers. So yeah, when it comes down to boots, always try to find yourself good speed boots and never sell them, like literally never sell them, no matter how bad the set is. In your first year or two, you're gonna literally hold on to every single speed boot because almost all of your champions need one of those. As for the substats, depending on the champion, if we're talking about a support, you're gonna be looking for HP percent, defense percent. If the champion lands debuffs, you're gonna need accuracy. If the champion is a reviver or a cleanser, you could stack a lot of resistance, but as long as it has speeds, it really doesn't matter what it has at the bottom. It's still gonna be a keep for you, but if you want to precise the item for the champion it really needs it, supports need defensive stats, whereas nukers need crit rate, crit damage, attack percent if they're an attack-based nuker, HP percent if they're an HP-based nuker, and defense percent if they're defense percent nuker. Again, accuracy might be important for them if they land some debuffs, but a lot of times you're not gonna care for something like that. The second item would be the chest plate, and this is also a pretty important item. Again, you can see exactly what kind of main stat this item could be rolling if you select chests on the filter and select primary stat. And you're gonna see that a chest could be rolling flat HP, HP percent, same with attack and defense, and also resistance and accuracy, but obviously it cannot be rolling speed, and also it cannot roll crit rate or crit damage. For a chest to be good, for the most part, you want to have yourself either HP percent, attack percent, defense percent, resistance can be very helpful, and accuracy could be very helpful. But in some cases, you're also gonna hold on to even things like HP flat, attack flat, and defense flat. The reason behind that, well, look at this item. Triple speed, guys. 22 speed out of a chest is absolutely insane, and I would actually be happy to use this on some of my supports in order for them to be even quicker. This is literally the only reason why I would be keeping anything with a flat stat on a chest, so yes, it is important to still hold on to these pieces if they have the potential to roll a little bit of speed. But for the most part, like I said, the percentages would be the way to go, and also resistance if you wanna not get crowd controlled, and accuracy if you really wanna be landing a lot of debuffs. For instance, champions like Armans and Fabian would be loving accuracy chesticles, and that's why they have such. When it comes down to the gloves, here's a huge mistake I've done on my account back in the day. This item had no business going up to level 16, guys. This item is actually an absolute sell for my account, because it's a flat attack, and what did it roll? A bunch of accuracy, just a speck of speed, a little bit of defense percent, and a res. It's not the worst item in the world, but this has no business on my account after 2 years, that's for sure, so I'm actually gonna straight out sell it. Even though it's level 16, the sunk fallacy cost has nothing on me. And instead, I will put something a lot better on her. Again, to check what kind of main stats a glove could have, we go to the filters, select glove, and on the primary stats, you're gonna see again all the HP, defense, and attack percents, as well as flats, but also crit rate and crit damage. The second most important item in the game would definitely be the gloves, because these are the only items that can actually roll a ton of crit rate and a ton of crit damage, and both could be amazingly good for you. Crit capping your nukers, or having tons of crit damage on already crit capped nukers is essential for good amounts of damage and raid, so definitely hold on to your good crit rate and crit damage gloves. And as for substats, again, you would look, if you have a crit rate glove, you would be very happy if you have crit damage on that glove, speed would be amazing, and a percentage, either HP or defense or attack, could determine if this is gonna be on a defense, HP, or attack based nuker. If you have a crit damage glove, you're gonna be very happy to have crit rate on the substats, but even without those, you could make a case to hold on to it for your account. This, for instance, rolled a little bit of defense percent, so I can still use it on some defense based nuker. It's not gonna be the most amazing glove, but it's still kind of usable. Anyway, for the case of my War Maiden, I will be looking for an HP or defense perception glove in this case. With a little bit of speed, it would be perfect for her. Here's one. It has defense, a bunch of attack. I really don't care about this glove as much. War Maiden does need to be somewhat faster. This item does look like it's a lot better fit for my War Maiden. Gives her a lot of HP so she survives longer. Gives her a good amount of accuracy since this is the second piece of perception, and a decent amount of speed, so let's just equip that. To be fair, she does scale off of attack, so if I wanted her to deal more damage, I could give her attack percent, but if I really wanted her to deal more damage, I would be giving this glove crit rate or crit damage instead, guys. But for the most part, my War Maiden is just a support debuffer champion to drop that defense with her A3, so I'm building her as such. Another caveat that's really important here is gloves don't really care about attack percent for the most part. Attack percent on gloves is actually something you're gonna use on a very few champions, and the only champions that really want attack percent gloves would be bomb champions. The reason behind bomb champions being happy to put attack percent gloves instead of crit rate or crit damage, well, bombs do not crit. If a bomb can't crit, you don't need crit damage on it, and you don't need crit rate on it. What you do need is the attack percent, because most bombers do scale off attack. I'm saying most because some new champions also scale off HP or defense, but for the most part, attack percent gloves would not be amazing for most champions. There are a few exceptions. For instance, Carnage, I know, does better with attack percent gloves instead of crit damage, but 99% of the time, a nuker would be happy with a crit rate or crit damage glove. Moving down to the top row, starting off with the weapon, the main stat here is always just gonna be flat attack. Same with helmets always having flat HP, and same with shields only having flat defense. There is nothing else the top row could be rolling, and that is why the top row items are just not as amazing as the bottom row items. A few interesting things about the top row items is, for instance, the weapon cannot have a substat defense. Look at this. Selecting defense, it doesn't happen. I'm not even sure why these boxes are here, by the way. They should literally be grayed out just like in the main stuff, but I guess that's something Raid slept on. But yes, the weapon cannot have any sort of defense on it, so that's something to think about, as well as the shield cannot have any sort of attack on it as a substat, so don't be going around looking for attack percent on your shields. That simply does not exist. The helmet, however, could be rolling absolutely anything. It could have HP, defense, and attack, so there is that. But for the most part, the top row items, what you're gonna be looking for is mainly speed, guys. Speed is the best stat in the game, so if you have a little bit of speed on your item, it usually does make some sense to hold on to it for your account. If it doesn't have speed, it has to have something really good, like HP percent plus defense percent, crit rate plus crit damage, accuracy or resistance with defense or HP, that kind of stuff. But do not hold on to things that have like flat HP with flat defense. That is simply not a good item. Flat attack, flat HP, and flat defense would be a horrible helmet, and so on and so forth. So to sum it up, the top row items would be best for you for nukers to have crit rate and crit damage. Speed would still be ideal, and for support champions, the most important thing you could have on your top row items as a substat would be speed. So look for that on those. I really hope all of this information does help you have a much better understanding of your collection so you can actually sell your items much more consistently. This video alone is not going to be enough for you to do that. I would really advise you to check out my detailed guide about which sets are important in raid, so you have a much better understanding of how hard or how easy you could be going for a set. But yeah, understanding what stats you're looking for on an item is not enough for you to make an educated decision what you should be selling and what you should be keeping on the account, so make sure to check out the other video as well. It's a little bit longer than it's supposed to, but it still is very valuable. Let's also quickly go over all the accessories and what you should be looking for on those. And for rings, the only thing a ring could have as a main stat would be either flat HP or flat attack or flat defense. When you have a flat HP ring, you are gonna be looking for substats like HP percent as well as defense percent. This would be the best way for you to have an HP percent ring. Depending on who you're gonna be using this ring on, maybe it's gonna be on a HP based nuker. In that case, the defense percent is not gonna matter and you're only gonna want to roll as much HP percent as possible. You could still hold on to an HP ring with HP percent straight out, not caring about the other substats, but it would be great if actually that ring does roll some of that. For instance, here's an HP ring that did roll a single roll of HP percent. In this case, I would hold on to this ring for a little bit longer. When I roll it up to level 12, if it does roll extra HP percent or at least defense percent, I might keep it. If it doesn't, it's probably gonna be a sell. Same thing can be said when we're talking about defense rings, by the way. When you have defense rings, again, you're gonna be looking for defense percent or HP percent with it, but even just defense percent might make sense for your early game accounts. But if a flat defense ring does not have any defense percent or HP percent, it's not gonna be an amazing ring for sure, and you are probably gonna sell it really soon on your account, even though in the early game you're probably gonna literally hold on to any single accessories you have. But later on, when you start needing room, you are gonna have to start selling these baddies because they're simply not good. When it comes down to attack, the only thing you're gonna care about would be attack percent, nothing else. Like everything else is gravy, but attack percent would be best. If it also has HP percent and defense percent, it would be ideal, but for the most part, the only thing you care about would be the attack percent, because if you're putting somebody into an attack ring, obviously you're gonna want even more attack percent on it. When it comes down to amulets, again, the primary stats are very limited. You could have HP, attack, defense, but most importantly, crit damage, guys. Crit damage is extremely important for any nuker you're building, so if your nuker does not have a crit damage amulet, he will be doing a lot less damage than he is supposed to. So always try to find yourself crit damage amulets main stat for your nukers, whereas anything else honestly is kind of whatever on the main stat for support champions. Still, if you want to be min-maxing, obviously HP or defense would be best for your support champions. But again, a lot like the attack gloves, attack amulets are only going to be important for bomb champions. In the early game, you're probably not going to have any bomb champions, so you really are not going to care about attack amulets too much. But to be fair, an attack amulet is still going to be just as fine, even on a support champion. Yes, you're not going to get a little bit of that HP or defense or whatever, but still, it's probably going to be worth it for you. It's definitely better than not having an amulet. As for substats, an amulet could be rolling only flat HP, flat attack, flat defense, crit damage, res, and accuracy. You're not going to be looking about any HP, attack, or defense percentages for amulets. They simply cannot roll those. You also cannot look for speed because it can't roll those. Neither can you roll crit rate. Amulets are usually a good place for you to be finding a little bit of extra accuracy or resistance from the substats, so if you need those stats bumped, the amulet is definitely a great place to look for those. And arguably the most important item from the accessories would indeed be the banner, and the reason for that is the banner is the only item that can have a substat speed. For the 9th time in this video, speed is the most important stat in raid, so the best place to get yourself extra speed from your accessories would be from the amulets indeed. So when you go ahead a little bit further into the game, if a banner does not have speed on it, you're gonna have to have a very good reason to hold on to it. A very good reason would be for it to be from something like a pay-to-win set like Slayer, or from a hard-to-get set like Feral, that kind of stuff. But for the most part, if you're endgame, you're not gonna be keeping a banner unless it has some speed on it for 99% of the time. Other than that, as a main stat, you can see that the banner could be rolling HP, attack, defense, res, and accuracy. You're gonna notice there's no percentages here, so don't look for those. Of course, there's no speed or crit rate or crit damage. Like we said, it's only happening speed on the boots and crit or crit damage on the gauntlet, so don't look for those here. Well, the crit damage we already saw, it's also on the amulet, but enough about that. But yes, for the substats, the most important one to look for would be speed. And also another important thing to notice here, banners cannot roll any resistance as a substat, and also they cannot roll any accuracy as a substat, which is kind of interesting. Like, this actually took me a while to figure out when I was playing the game. Literally after my first year, I think I noticed it, and only after a friend told that to me, I was like, yeah, I'm gonna try and get some accuracy on the banner. The fuck I will. It simply cannot roll it. And also you cannot be getting any crit rate or crit damage as substats here. So yeah, the most important thing would be to find speed here. HP percent is nice, defense percent is nice, and attack percent is nice, but the only thing you really care about would be the speed indeed. Again, for the main stat, doubling down, you cannot get HP percent or attack percent or defense percent, and some of the most important banners here for you would be the resistance and accuracy banners, because they really give you a crap ton of either of those stats, but also HP, attack, and defense with tons of substat speed would be amazing, especially if you're an attack-based nuker. Flat attack on the banner with a bunch of speed and attack percent would be perfection. So I think that about wraps it up for this topic, guys. I really hope this helps you better understand what you should be looking for on each item on your champions, so you have a much better time building them, as well as having a much better time selling your gear. I know this topic was not for a lot of my viewers, but I still see a lot of newer players have no idea what they should be looking for on their items, so I really hope this helps them out. Don't forget you can check me out live on stream each Tuesday and Thursday for more free account takeovers, and if you want to support the channel for free, download the game from my premium download link and start raid the right way. Thanks for watching. I'm Crystal5, and I'll see you in my next video or stream.